Glad to have you back for this session on biofield regulation, how energy shapes the nervous system health. Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehon will be joining us for this session. She is a naturopath physician and a researcher. Her work explores the biofield, the subtle energetic systems that surround and inform the body, and how coherence in the field influences the stress response, our immunity, and our overall well-being. She helps people understand energy not as something abstract or mystical, but as practical, measurable information that affects daily life, health, and resilience. Welcome, Dr. Sharnael.
Hi, so thankful to be here and I appreciate your work. I mean, my goodness, this is such a big thing to put on. For those of you who are watching, I've never done this before. Just trust me, this takes a lot of working things out to make this happen. So kudos to you for all your hard work to bring this amazing information out to the world.
I appreciate that because there is a lot that goes on in the background, and there's a lot of intentionality that we put into this to make it move forward. So, you really do some unique work that I think a lot of people will talk about and reference, but they don't truly understand a lot of times. So, for someone new to the term biofield, or maybe they heard the term, they're unclear about the meaning, can you just explain a little bit about it in practical terms and how it could be relevant to someone's life?
Absolutely. It's my favorite topic. I have a visual if that helps.
Oh,
This is, pardon my artwork, if you even want to call it artwork, but in my book, The Science of Miracles, I talk a lot about how the biofield works. And this is like pretend you have this invisible realm around you. And the average, I mean, this person is not smiling, but so depending on what your situation is going to reflect what's going on in your field. Everyone has a biofield. The average person's field, some people call them aura, electric belt. I'm sure there's other names for it that I'm not thinking right now. But the average person is about 4 feet. Some people up to 6 feet. And what I found out using David Hawkins' map of consciousness is the higher a person is in consciousness, the further out the field goes, which is kind of interesting because if you're familiar with the map of consciousness, 0 or anything under 200 is what they would call, not integrous or not having the best intentions or just not like on the up and up with truth. Anything above 200, which is courage or truth or honesty, is really high. So someone earning the average of 200 is going to have at least a 3-4 foot field. I have tested some people up to like 21 feet, which is amazing. But someone who's lower, really interesting. What I started feeling when I was doing biofeedback, I was noticing like some people's fields were just really convoluted and had a lot of different things going on. And the lower the field, the smaller, the lower on the map, the smaller the field was. And I actually found some people who were like in the 50s or below, and they had not only no field, but they were like inverted. And
really?
we've heard the term energy suckers and that kind of thing. Anyone who's above 200 on the map of consciousness, they're generating their own truth, they're living their life, they're doing their thing. But someone who is lower than 200 literally has to feed off of someone else's field to feel alive, to get any kind of like thought process or life in general, or just to remain in place. And so your field actually is made up of a lot of different things. It's made up of what we're thinking about, what we're talking about, especially what we're feeling. That's a biggie. But then there's also some extra things, like every single cell in our body has a code. Our organs have different codes. So there you can have ancestral codes that are coming out in the DNA. Everything is tracked and monitored, and we all have this, realm. And like I said, some people, and I know you probably know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you could just like see someone on your cell phone calling and you're like, oh no, I'm not picking that up, because you can almost feel the pull, from the phone, and you're like, no, the Debbie Downers of the world or whatever, or the Karens, they're calling it now, or something,
Yeah.
but then you have the opposite, right? Someone like yourself would be really high, and being around someone like you would just like, you would feel happy and at ease, like it's tangible. Those fields are very transferable, they're very tangible. And that's why we should be very aware about what we're thinking, what we're talking about, and especially what we're feeling, because that will transmit out to the world. And then the actual world has its own field. It's called the Schumann resonance. It's at 7.83. And as we shift as a consciousness, it actually changes the earth. And so there's a collective field, and then there's our field, our personal field. And it's both electronic and it's magnetic, which is why they call it bio. Bio means two. Electric, one. Magnetic, two. And the biggest part of the electric part is the heart, what we're feeling. And I wrote this book because I was working with a lot of patients who were really wanting to get to the next level, whether it was physical health, mental health, or just like miracles, finances, partnership, finding the love of their life. And they'd be like, I feel like, I have this like one step forward, two step back kind of deal, cancel, clear. Or like you're just on the brink, but then it just doesn't happen kind of deal. And I was like, well, what is that? And you can have like a mismatch. You could be like thinking in your heart, you really, really long for, love, and you want someone. But if your mind is like, yeah, but remember that last guy, he was da 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 da. And remember mom with all the trouble with the different guys, so that code can go out, and so you'll have positives and negatives, and they kind of cancel each other out. And you end up in this kind of, I call it energetic purgatory. So you're just sitting there and you're like, you're not getting really any traction, because you're putting out that you don't want to deal with it, but you're feeling that you do. So you're pulling it in and putting it out. And then if you talk about it with your friends and you're like, hey, remember that guy, blah, blah, blah. And the more you talk about it, that goes into the field, and we can only get what we are. And so that's why social media is a big deal too, because they are weaponizing, screens and social media and TV to get us focused on the next protest or the next whatever, to stay in that fear, to stay in that confusion, to stay in anger, whatever the situation is, to manipulate us to putting it out into the field. And then we keep getting more garbage, because again, whatever a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Even if it's like television or movies or music or video games, your limbic, this is your frontal lobe, and behind that is your limbic system. Your limbic system cannot tell the difference between imagination, fake, or real. It can't tell the difference between me or you. It can't tell the difference between me giving to you or receiving to you. There's no time involved. So if I give something to you, my body registers that as I'm receiving that. And so that's why it feels good to give, right? But in the same token, if you're thinking negative about someone, or judging someone, or speaking badly about someone, guess what? Your brain registers that as someone's talking about you, or you're talking about yourself in a bad way. And that's not even counting your own negative thoughts about yourself, right? So we have our own things, but then we could be having like word curses and things like that, which, I kind of follow the Bible on a quantum physics level. But it says, whatever you give ear to will be given unto you. Judge, and you will be judged. I mean, this is all quantum physics. This isn't like just scripture or some woo-woo Bible thing. This is actually what happens in the field, because we can't get anything more than what we already are. And the more we work on us, the more it adds to the collective. The best thing to do is not try to make other people think this way or do this thing, or, can't you just be like us? Can't you just, whatever? It's like, no, that is a reflection of you. We need to work back on us. And the more we work on us, you will see the changes in other people. So that's kind of in a nutshell what a biofield. I don't know if I really answered it. Probably answered too much, but
No, that was a lot, and honestly, that was super informative. I have to tell you, I related to all of it, and there was it was logical. Um, so I appreciate it, and a lot of what you just talked about, I think, is something that we're hearing a lot about now is the mirroring. People are mirrors, situations are mirrors, that they're all mirrors coming back to us. So it's just being spoken or packaged in a different way than maybe it has been historically, or the way that you've just described it. So that was perfect. So just to slow it down a little bit, some people, they see regulation, they think that it starts in the body all the time, while other people, they notice the changes happening early. In your experience, have you what have you seen that suggests an imbalance that can happen before the physical symptom appears? What's going on before that physical symptom shows up?
so disease or dis-ease starts in the heart and then the mind. And it's like, again, what you're feeling, what you're thinking about. We spend a lot of time and energy, literally, focusing on things that we can't control, things that will never even happen anyway. I have been like the queen overthinker of like the ABCD things of events that could be possibilities that could happen, and the plan for each one, in case those things happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of Neville Goddard, but he talks about out picturing other people. And there's another book, Psycho-Cybernetics. I think that's how you say it. But and he just says, shut down all the fake imaginations, because we will create our worst case scenario. And yes, things do store in the body, especially if we don't flush them out and clear them. Because again, you may have a trauma, and these traumas, the way that, I don't know what that's doing, but I'm sorry. The limbic system right here behind the frontal lobe, it's also the librarian of your emotions and your body. And so if you have a trauma or something that happens, the limbic system will defrag a lot of information between like 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Because we don't need to remember every single thing that we see all day. We're getting so much data, more than any time in history, really. And we don't need it. So we have this thing in the brain called the reticular activating system that basically sorts out like what isn't really important. Like, what color was the lady at the grocery store's shirt when you went there last Wednesday, and what music was playing in the background when you were grocery shopping that day, and what perfume. We're regulating our heart. We're thinking, all these things are going on while we're listening, while we're doing things. We're multitasking. That defrags in the middle of the night. What's left over that doesn't defrag, the limbic system says, you know what, I'm going to put that in a body part, and I'm just going to let it sit there for a minute, until she's ready to like flush this out, or he is ready to flush this out. Now it could sit there dormant 5 days, 20 days, 10 years, 5 years. I mean, it's until you run into something enough that it keeps hitting that organ. Then you will start to see symptoms. And when you see those symptoms, then what most people are told: go to the doctor, and then the doctor will give you pain medicine to turn that pain off so you don't feel that anymore. Well, we're not really trained. A lot of doctors aren't trained to go, well, what is the cause? It's the root of why you're even having the pain in the first place. I mean, yeah, if it's a car accident or something like that, we know. But if it's emotional or if it's traumatic, then, they're not looking into that. And so we can find where there's been trauma and clear the trauma, so the symptoms actually go away. And biofeedback will do that. And there's a lot of other energy medicine things that do that. Some things tend to stick a little more than others. Like, some things could be like, oh, she said something bad at me, blah, I don't care, keep going, and you defrag it, right? You can maybe even defrag it before the 3 a.m., 5 a.m. But if we're not sleeping during 3 to 5 a.m., we won't defrag as much. If we eat before we go to bed, we won't defrag as much because most of the energy is going towards trying to digest. But also, if it's something really, really traumatic, or if it's something that happened from an authoritative figure, like a coach or a teacher or your parents or something like that, it can have a little more stick. If it's something that's been repetitively happening, like really bad, or if it's sudden, like you got thrown off, a person got thrown off a horse, or, it may have a little more stick. Those things can stick a little extra. And you can have a combination of those. Like maybe someone attacked someone else and it happened to be a coach and it's the 5th time that it happened, so those have like a triple stick, and the limbic system may not flush it as much, so it may go, I'm just going to put this over here. But yeah, the problem is most of the doctors are just going to give you opiates, or not you, a person, opiates or some other thing, and just send you home and go, yeah, just take this and you'll be better. And they don't do x-rays, they don't it's like, or they charge you all of that and insurance, and you still go home knowing I don't have a clue what's going on, and they're not fixing it. They're just putting a Band-Aid on it. Like if you take your car to go get your oil changed, if they looked at the light and they were like, yeah, let's just unplug the light and make that noise go away and get on the road and you're fine. You're fine. No, that's not how it works. The body blows up, and so does the car. So getting to the root issues is major.
Okay, so I love this because this is just a flow from our first 2 sessions. Like, you can't make
Oh,
this up, that this is linking up, and the same thing happened yesterday with different topics, so I love it. So right now, we know anxiety is a big issue, and it's just getting more and more and more out there, and I'm reading more research on how, uh, they're linking the immune system and the things that affect the immune system to your more bigger traditional issues that we see in medicine with different cancers. So we'll say it's getting more press. I don't think that it's new research, it's getting more press. So from your perspective, is there a way to start to develop an awareness when you start feeling energetically off before you get to that point of anxiety or burnout or immune issues?
yeah, I think that awareness, like you said, is key. And to be fair, I don't think the average Joe takes enough time just to be for a minute. We're so bombarded again with scrolling and technology. I mean, there's screens in every room and, in your pocket, and notifications and emails, and so many different ways people can get to us, that I don't always, if I didn't personally schedule time to be off and literally have something on my phone that says like 10 o'clock to 8 in the morning, I can't even use my phone. It blocks it. I do my different practices in the morning just to be quiet and get quiet. I do stuff at night to get, to listen in and tune in. But the average American is working 2 to 3 jobs at a time with kids, and just trying to survive most of the time right now. And so, like, to get a moment, I mean, isn't always easy, I think it's important to make sure that self-care is really here, because healthcare isn't really healthcare. And if we are not our own advocate and taking care of our own health and being the guardian of this body that is encapsulating our spirit and our soul and all the wonderful things that we are, that no one is like, but you guys watching, you're the only you, and you need to take care of you. You get to take care of you. When we take care of ourselves and take that ownership, and, doctor actually just means teacher. And when's the last time you went to a doctor that actually taught you anything, or made sure that you didn't have to come back because they were given all the information that you could go home and just learn like what to do now for yourself? A lot of these doctors, hey, come back to the chiropractor 3 times a week and come here and do this, blah, blah. It's like this and you're in 10 seconds and you're out, and it's like, you got your 3 scripts and blah, 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 hopefully you're good. See you next Friday, and follow-ups. Like, I have never been like, if I feel better, I'm not going back to just tell them I'm good. It's like, no, I don't need to follow up. I haven't been to the doctor in forever, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask. But I think
Okay.
awareness is awareness. I mean, do you have any practices that you do just to be quiet? Like, what do you do?
Oh, I literally moved to the middle of nowhere on this farm surrounded on 3 sides by federal forests. So I just, I, even before the summit today, I took care of all the animals and my chores. And what really hit me this morning for some reason, maybe because I was meant to talk about it for this session, is I really never realized how much I enjoy doing that and how good it feels to be out there, regardless of the freezing temperature or the weather. It was like, you know what? I really never realized how much I enjoy this and it feeds me. So I have made a lot of conscious choices in the last couple of years to take care of myself. So that's extreme, though. I think that for most people, they're not going to do what I've done.
Well, I'm
But
from
you're right.
Montana.
Okay.
Yeah,
But honestly,
originally.
taking 5 minutes for your day, like I lived in major cities the majority of my life, and you can still find a moment or a place that is peaceful to you for 5 minutes, whether you're in an apartment and you're gifted to have a balcony, or you sit on a porch, or you step in your backyard and you have maybe some flowers or something. I think that there's more opportunity than people realize. But I want to go back to the immunity thing because it just has really resonated with me, especially over this past week in doing this summit. Uh, like I said, that there's more research and evidence that's becoming aware that it plays a very significant role in dysregulation and dysfunction to the nervous system. And what role do you think the stress patterns and energy, because like that's your gig and you're very knowledgeable and you understand it on a level most people don't. How does those energetic patterns, that burden, how is that playing into the immune resilience?
Well, stress in general, which if everyone has stress. It's a matter of how you manage it, how you manage you. Because I talk to patients all day long and they could tell me, I mean, it's a counseling session, ends up being like, they could tell me all their things. And guess what? I could come back and we could play tit for tat and I got just as much going on, and that's not a brag. I'm just saying life is life. And it's how we manage what we're facing, and not just having this, oh my God, everything is just a thing, and then talking about it and then just making it bigger and just marinating in all of that. Because what happens is cortisol levels will be affected, your adrenals will be affected, and this does change the field. If we have fear vibes, that we just keep getting more stuff that will create more fear, and a person is inviting more fear, the more fear we go out. If we could just, get into that pocket of, I trust God or your source or whoever, or yourself or your higher self or whatever, and get into, some other decrees. I have a whole card deck that talks about like decrees that affect consciousness, and how I can test people before and after they're saying something or thinking something, and literally changes the field, which changes the inside of your body, all your immunity. It regulates things, brings things down, just by our words, just by our thoughts, just by our, being. So it affects the gut. It lowers the frequency of the field, and other things lower frequency too, like drinking, chemicals, any kind of recreational drugs. All of those will bring frequency down, which a lot of times people who are in stress are participating in all those things, because they don't want to feel. And I know judgment. I mean, believe me, But that also brings down the numbers of the field, and it's like a key to your field. Literally, like you've unlocked your field to invite more entities in, to bring more chaos and more situations to that person. So as much as we can regulate stress, whether you need to get out in nature, there's so much code, and just walking in the forest or being by the beach, or it can literally just cleanse your field. Taking a shower or a bath, magnesium or something like that will clear the field. Put on some meditation music, or read a good book, or laughter, like watch a funny movie that isn't stressing you out. Just laughing can change and regulate your adrenals, your cortisol levels, like, which changes your field. It's just get out of your head. That's a big, big, big thing. And whatever we're thinking does change and regulate the stress. And the stress is what changes all the hormones. And we have all these hormones, and there's disruptors, including thoughts, that disrupt the hormones and dysregulate the hormones, which changes everything. And so you can look under live blood and just talk to blood, or talk to yourself, and I could test and put it in our live blood, and the person looks good. And then they could talk negative about themselves, put live blood under it, and it looks bad, like just by them thinking about it.
So that's interesting. That sort of matches up with Veda Austin's work that she does with the water,
Yeah.
and talking to
Yeah.
the
I've
water
had
and
her
the
on the
different
show
patterns.
several times.
Oh, have
Yeah.
you? Oh man, I'd love to
Yeah.
have her on the happy hour. We'll have to talk about that off camera at some point. So a couple of things with what you just said, and you had mentioned the summit and all that goes on behind it, and I had mentioned we were very intentional about many things. So one of the things that we were super intentional about is the very last session is humor is medicine. And it's very powerful because it ties everything up in that more positive, the importance of laughter kind of way. So I love that you literally just said that. But you have mentioned, you've talked about God a few times in this session, and obviously you're talking about the biofield. So I think that you're a good person to ask this question to. In your experience, what tends to change when someone works with both consciousness and biology instead of focusing on one or the other? Because it feels like people have either one foot in one door or one foot in the other door.
Well, there's actually no separation whatsoever. There are people who believe that, and who have created that program, and that's what they believe. And you can't, there's nothing to do. I can't change anyone's belief systems, but consciousness will directly affect biology, and biology affects consciousness. Like, we as Westerners, I think, want to segment everything up and put it all in these little, and medicine does that too. Western medicine is just very like, oh, this is east and that's west, and this is the thyroid, and this is the organ, I don't know, liver or whatever. And we can chop it up. But I say this in my book too. The first line in here is, you can't pee in the pool and hope it doesn't get everywhere. Like, there's no smoking section. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to get, like, whatever you are, it's going to ease out. And you're also going to leak in other people's stuff if you have a match. So if you are lying to yourself, you will collect liars. If you talk shit about people, then you're going to get those people. If you feel bad about yourself, which I've been there, and I felt really, really bad about myself, and I actually, it's too long, but I started just collecting people who treated me bad, and what's also really cool and interesting is I do these group parasite cleanses. And I started out just because I was testing a product, and I asked some people to do it, and we were doing it 3 months, and we did exit questions and before questions. And after several months, we realized, I thought it was all going to be physical. I thought everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, I feel better. I have more energy, sleep better, whatever. We had a lot of people who were like, I got a new job offer. My narcissist boyfriend quit calling. Like, I got some new friends, like those kind of things. And I was trying to think about, like, well, what is it? And mold and parasites in general are very parasitic in energy, and they have their own life and they have their own energy. So number one, it convolutes your field because that sends out another projection, but it also has their own magnet. And so whatever we're putting out, we get, and they happen to be within us. They're sending out that message that basically, hey, this is a good host, cancel clear. And people will only submit to your lowest common denominator. So a lot of people who are like, why am I getting cheaters? Like, I always attract these guys who just cheat. It's like, well, look to see if you have parasites, if you have mold, and look to see if there's anything in your life that you are living a lie in. And it could be maybe you're at a job you're not supposed to be at. Maybe you're not living in the right city. Maybe you are with a guy that you shouldn't be, or partnered in a business with someone you shouldn't be. Like, what area of your life isn't true? Because something is attracting that. And there's been people who just have one blow after another, and you're like, wow, why do they always get that? It's almost like they're cursed. And it's just like, well, what is it that isn't aligned that's allowing that to happen? Because again, we can only get what we are, and anything that shows up is ours to fix. And some of it can be ancestral. Sometimes there's things going on, and
Talk a little
like
more about that.
so our DNA has code, and I can do with biofeedback, we can see the lower the numbers, the longer they've had it. And some of the numbers are so low, we know like this was what they incarnated into. This is what they came here. This is the package that was already there when they got here. So maybe grandma or grandpa lied and cheated, or maybe they were really good and amazing and strong integrity, and you just get all this good things because you started out that way and you just built on it, and you grew up in a great household where integrity was a big thing. But the word integrity actually means integrated. And so when we're integrated with consciousness, with God, whoever, with love, because God is love. Right. And so if God bothers you, just think love, like what's aligned with love? Because anything less than love isn't your highest. And when we quote repent, pent is just the penthouse. This is the highest floor right here. And to repent means just think again, get a new thought, get a new program, think about something better, turn around and do something different based on what your thoughts are. And so, I happen to believe that there is a higher power of some kind, someone who I think it's more code or spirit, or I don't know what you call it. But whether anyone who knows what's going on, but something's out there that causes this exchange. And this is the cover. You can kind of see this is, everyone has this Merkaba situation, and we all have this field, and we can beef up the numbers and get more good things and synchronicities and all the wonderful, beautiful things, or we can keep working on ourselves and get rid of parasites and get rid of energetic parasites, and kind of take away the signal, like remove the signal and watch what happens. It's pretty cool.
That is just amazing. The whole parasite thing and the parallels with that was very eye-opening. So if you can talk a little bit about, you mentioned the TVs and the Wi-Fis and the phones and all these electronic things that we're exposed to. How is that affecting everything?
Yeah, a lot of people think that is a myth, and it is absolutely not. I've had patients that their smart meter box is like, close to their bedroom or whatever. I actually had a really bad diagnosis that I was able to reverse. And I work a lot with people with that diagnosis. And I did not know, but my doctor tested me and he said, you're getting a lot of like high voltage energy in the night between like 10 to 8 in the morning. He was like, are you sleeping with your phone? Or do you have like a Wi-Fi box next to your bed or something? And I was like, I don't sleep with my phone, blah, blah, blah. So the next day the power went out in real life in my house. And the guy came and he's like, where's your little box still? And I'm like, I don't know. call my husband, so we found out that literally if this is my headboard, the smart meter was like right behind, and they had just put that, it's not the dialogue, but the digital Wi-Fi one that literally just beams all night, like constantly. And it goes several feet. I mean, it right through the bed. So because of that, I ended up with a pretty bad diagnosis. And again, I was able to reverse that. But I've had people say, just go sleep in the kitchen for the night and see if you have any difference, or the living room or something. And, headaches go away, regulated systems, the cells, if you look under live blood, you can see the difference. I mean, there's so many things that are science about it that people are like, oh, it's not real. It is so real. And if you go to my website, drsharnael.com, I actually have some really good plugins that cover up to 2,000 square feet. I keep a thing on my cell phone, any major, like my Wi-Fi box and that kind of thing. And I have one of those testers. What do you call the? Probably have it around here somewhere, but where you could test to see like if it's causing that electric thing or not. Well, I thought I just had it actually, but anyway,
No.
It's real.
It is real. I believe it's real. There are a lot of products that you can put out there, and there's different things that you can put on your devices. I have stickers, and I forget what the stone is, little things that I hang. But because just as you said, you can be intentional about not having a TV in the bedroom, sleeping with your phone, maybe out in the main area, the door closed and stuff. But there's still things seeping in that we're unaware of. So it's hard to believe that we have just a few minutes left of this conversation. Obviously, we could probably talk for hours on it. But before we end, can you just touch, you've mentioned it throughout the conversation, a little bit on your bioscans and how you use them?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for having me again. I appreciate that. So with biofeedback, I can do that remote. So if anyone is feeling kind of out of sorts, whether it's mental or like spiritual or physical, or maybe like things just keep happening bad around you and you're just like, why does this keep happening? We do basically get some information from you. We pick up diagnostics. You can get, there's about 25, 30 reports depending on what's going on. But we do look at if EMFs are bothering you, like the pollution of the electronics. We look at your hormones. We look at your brain and your sleep patterns. We look at chiropractic. We look at vitamins. We look at major stressors. We look at emotional trauma, if there's anything stuck there. We look at psychic attack, or if there's cords that need to be cut. Gosh, what do we? There's so many reports. But we can see if there's Lyme or parasites or fungus or mold.
And then what do you do with that information?
Yeah, and we can even look at digestive system, which can affect, depression and immunity issues and that kind of stuff. But once we get the diagnostics, the software will create frequencies to send back to you to already like get you in a better spot. Most people need about 3 scans to really do, depending on what the situation is. One scan does a lot, but multiple, we'll just get one every 2 weeks to piggyback on the last one. So we can kind of pick up where we left off, and we just get new reports to see like, okay, this has been crossed off. We don't need that anymore. We can work on this now. And I do a consultation, the first one too, just because if there's anything from a naturopathic point of view that I can look at and say, you know what, you need a vitamin D. If you take a vitamin D, the energies can work on the things that we can't work on, or maybe you need to go to bed early, or, I don't know, get grounded, say a quick prayer. There's things that I will point out that can take some of the work from the frequencies off the little things and work more on the bigger things. But it's really quick and easy. But I've worked with people in Australia and England and all over. And there you
Sharnael,
go.
thank you for helping us bridge science, energy, lived experience in such a clear, practical way. And you literally did do all of that. Like the information you gave in such a short period of time is amazing. Your insights offer people a new lens for understanding stress, regulation, and resilience. I appreciate your depth and clarity that you brought today. And to learn more about Dr. Sharnael and her work, you can go to Dr. Sharnael, SHARNAEL.com. Thanks a lot.